I am stoked. With my last flight, I achieved platinum status.
That's great. How'd you do that? It's only May.
Well, I had rollover miles, I took a bunch of flights, I hit the minimum credit card spend, I complimented the CEO 20 times on Twitter, I bribed the check-in lady, I carried the elderly from Terminal T to Terminal F at the Atlanta airport, and I passed both the verbal and written exams in Klingon.
So, are you going to have to do that again next year?
No way. Next year I'm riding horseback.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. I hope everyone's doing great today as we get to celebrate Memorial Day weekend coming up. But of course, I want to thank all of the soldiers who have fought battles for us to keep America free, and those who have passed on for the cause of protecting our rights. I want to thank them and put it out there that we wouldn't be here being able to do such a great show every single week without those folks that make the sacrifice. I wish I was of the ilk to do that, but sadly, I don't think I've got the ability to go into the military. But I want everyone out there to know that those of you who have been there, I want to thank you for doing what I could not. And another person I want to thank is Mr. Jeff Polly for being here today, our producer who's going to join me for today's show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you going?
I'm doing pretty good today. And while you guys are out there listening, be sure to read all of my stuff at hotelmanagement.net. Follow me at Traveling Glenn on Instagram and Twitter. And be sure to check out bridgestreetglobal.com on YouTube to check out all of my Here to Stay videos. And of course, a day wouldn't go by unless I said like us on iTunes and share this with your friends. Coming up after Jeff and I have a little conversation here, we'll be speaking with Paul Snyder, the VP of Corporate Responsibility with IHG. And you're going to learn how to make money by doing the right thing by Mother Nature. Jeff, you're a real outdoorsy type of guy. I'm sure you could appreciate that sort of a tact with business.
Yeah, everybody that knows me knows that I love doing all kinds of outdoor things. I'm probably not as much as I would like to, and I'm probably not as hardcore as some other people, but I like snowboarding, I like mountain biking, I like surfing. So yeah, the outdoors are a huge part of my life. Yeah,
the outdoors are a huge part of my life, too. I will both sit in my backyard to barbecue and take a nap from time to time. So,
You really trek out there, don't you?
Well, Jeff, I am an adventurer. But we do have these great walking trails near my house that I like to check off, and walk around. But you got to avoid the horse poop over there, or else, you'll come home with a smelly surprise over there. So, I don't get out as much as I'd like to get out. But there are a lot of places, Jeff, on this amazing planet of ours that I would really like to see. But I'm thinking that a lot of them aren't going to be around that much longer. And it kind of frightens me and scares me. And you, sir, have put together a great list of some of the top places that we should visit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Grant. I got to give a little bit of credit where credit's due. Business Insider helped me, a lot with putting this list together because they had a great list of their own. But whether you agree with how it's happening, you cannot disagree that the Earth is warming, and a lot of the great places and a lot of the outdoorsy, wonderful tourist destinations that we've, kind of sometimes bucket listed or stuff that's right down the street are threatened by this warming of the planet. So, right. This list is covering what I think are some great places that a lot of people want to see that are in danger of disappearing entirely.
Yeah, and that makes me extremely sad to see that this is really what's happening on there. Thankfully, I think I've visited some of these places, and I've definitely got some others on my list. So what is number one for you today, sir?
Well, number one, I think, I know tons of people that this is on their bucket list. I know that you've been there. It's on my bucket list. It's the Great Wall of China. And most people are thinking, well, how is the Great Wall going to be affected by climate change? But actually it is. Over farming, erosion, and just the human impact of selling bricks with historic engravings on them have led to damage or destruction of nearly 2/3 of the Great Wall. And that's a shame.
Yeah, it really is a shame. We don't realize by, how much of that wall has disappeared because we see those iconic photographs. And I went to one section that is a premier area of it about, I think, an hour outside of Beijing. But there's lots of areas on the Great Wall that are just completely gone at this point, especially outside in the rural areas and in the farmland. And I think the Chinese government is trying to do their best right now to save it, but I don't know if they're 100% committed.
Yeah, and it might be a daunting task with as far as progression and advancement. Oft argument that says, okay, well, the advancement of the human race is more important than these historic sites, which I personally disagree with.
I actually think, and let me put this into the tourism frame, everything here we're talking about, you want to save all of these parts of our culture, parts of our history, parts of nature, because in the end, they're going to make you more money, because people are going to want to come and see these sites, experience these places, and it's a great opportunity by doing right by the environment that the environment will do right by your pocketbook. Right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
All right, so what's next?
Next is another one on my bucket list. I've never been to India, and I've always wanted to go to India, as opposed to my wife, who says I can go on that trip by myself. But the Taj Mahal is in serious peril, and I've actually heard that they were talking about just closing it down to tourists.
Oh, my God.
Entirely because of the effects of pollution and erosion that have happened on that site. So within the next 5 years or so, the pollution has gotten so bad in that area that they are seriously considering just closing it down and trying to preserve it that way.
Oh, my God. Goodness gracious. I really hope that doesn't happen. That, to me, is one of the most iconic structures on the planet, and I would hate to not be able to go and really experience that.
Exactly. It's disappointing, and hopefully, you and I can take a trip to India and see it one day.
I think so too, and let me make a plea out there to all of my Indian friends out there who have Indian heritage, who are from India or are still citizens of India. Hey, find a way to get Jeff and I over there. Ahoa, you hear me? So let's get over there and let's do a show from the Taj Mahal. Won't that be great?
Nice plug.
Yeah. Or sucking up. Either way. All right, what's next?
So the next is the Dead Sea. Some people don't know, but it borders Jordan and Israel, and it's an amazing site in the world. And it's shrunk 80 feet and disappeared by 1/3 in the past 40 years. And experts fear that if the water continues to be used from River Jordan, which the Dead Sea draws its water from, it completely gone in our lifetime.
Oh my goodness, that's really, really a terrible thing to hear. I can't imagine why they would continue to do something like that. But that being said, I'm very happy to say that I will be checking that off of my list. I'll be going this summer. Funny enough, someone on my group is actually named Jordan. So I'll be in the Dead Sea with a guy named Jordan. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's super exciting for you and your family.
I know. Yes, I'll be there with my family this summer. So everybody listening, get ready to see the requisite picture of me floating and waving in the Dead Sea. So
don't forget the Glenn Hausman famous food pics.
Well, how could I not? Yes, expect in August lots of pictures of falafel. So
and hummus.
And hummus, yes. It'll be my month of falafel and hummus pictures, but I hope to get in some other good ones. I understand that the Dead Sea is so salty that if you're going to go in it, you want to bring clothes that you don't mind getting rid of, because you're pretty much going to have to throw them out after you get out of the ocean, or the sea, I should say.
That's what I've heard. I've heard also the mud baths, like the mud right next to the ocean, is you cover yourself with it and then jump in, and it's holistic or healing or something.
Yes, I actually know people who are married to people that have products that come from the Dead Sea. So, yeah, they make a whole living based on that healing properties of the Dead Sea mud.
Okay, next on the list is Australia's Great Barrier Reef. It suffers from damage both due to high rising temperatures and increased acid pollution, and 93% of the reef suffers from some sort of bleaching. So, if trends keep continuing and the Earth keeps getting warmer, we could have a bunch of white rock instead of this beautiful place now.
And think about all of the life that is there, specifically because of the reef. The majority of sea life lives by the reefs, and this is the biggest one on our planet, and it's really devastating to see what's happening. Already, north of an area called Port Douglas, more than half of the coral that's been bleached is dying, and it's really a very severe situation. I'm very, very scared by that this may just really go away, especially, and we want to tie in that tourism issue. A year ago, just about a year ago, I'm referencing an article from CNN here. Tourism generates an annual income of $3.9 billion US and employs nearly 70,000 people. So if you love keeping people at work and you love our economy and the world economy, this is something that you should really be thinking of considerably. What's next on the list, Jeff?
Next on the list is the Alps. And
the Alps? Wait. The Alps? How could that possibly be?
The Alps. And one of the most important parts of the Alps are their glaciers. And because of climate change and the Earth warming, they've been losing about 3% of the Alpine Glacier each year.
Oh, my goodness.
And some experts believe that it could be gone entirely by 2050, which is kind of a scary thought.
That really is a scary thought. And, you're seeing this happen throughout the world as well. I know some people that have been to Alaska a lot over the last 20 years, and they say that every single time they go there on the cruise ships, those glaciers are farther and farther and farther away. And ice melting throughout the year is really causing big problems, and I think it's going to start to damage a lot of coastal cities before long.
Yeah, and next on the list is actually going to have the reverse effect for it. Mm-hmm. If the glaciers are melting, then that means more water, and that's threatening something on our turf here in the U.S., the Florida Everglades.
Yeah, of course it is.
And because of the water and the introduction of new species and urban development. The Everglades are a threatened park, and actually I read an article while researching this list that says it's the most threatened park in the United States right now.
My goodness, which makes absolute total sense to me. And forget the global warming for a moment. You're absolutely right about that urban development being a problem. Every time you go there, it seems, except for the super protected areas of it, more and more is being taken away. Pretty much all of South Florida, I think, was Everglades to begin with, and mankind has really encroached on all of those things. And we want to get angry at some of the alligators and stuff for eating people or biting people, but their neighborhood is being destroyed, and they don't have many places to go anymore. And it's really really sad and depressing. Plus, with these new species that you were talking about are really starting to kill. Species originally introduced to Florida, from like pets and food sources or as a biological control, have pretty much all backfired on places. You see that in Hawaii too. Like 85% of the species there, both plant and animal, now came from other places. And it's really unfortunate that these environments that are no longer in their pristine and natural state. And I really hope that the folks in Florida can do something about this before it's too late.
Yeah, and hopefully the people in Arizona can do the same thing, because next on the list is the Grand Canyon.
Oh my goodness.
And it's basically the same thing. Increased development projects ranging from uranium mining to tourist resorts have harmed the park, and especially its main water source, the Colorado River. So it's a park that is also considered threatened, and I've been there multiple times, and I would hate to see any of it diminished by human activity.
Yeah, I agree. I have not yet been to the Grand Canyon. I was supposed to go there once, but my schedule got changed and I couldn't get there. And it's one of those things that I really desperately want to see in my life. I think it's a place that all Americans should go see, and particularly folks that may not have as much of appreciation for the environment. I bet it's one of those places you go to and it really changes your opinion on how we should treat our natural resources.
Yeah, of course. And I'm going to stick with, continue on the list. I'm going to stick with the United States.
Yeah.
because I think that's where, most of our listeners are based.
Absolutely.
But Montana's Glacier National Park. If you can't get up to Alaska, I would say that Montana is quite possibly the next best state. But, it's a paradise for hikers and skiers and people such as myself. But it's threatened as well. It's once home to 150 glaciers, and the park has now fewer than 25. And it's potentially risking losing all its glaciers in the next 15 years.
15 years. That's like tomorrow.
It's a drop in the bucket for sure.
Oh my goodness. It's just terrible, and it makes me think again about all the water that's going to places in like the Florida Everglades, where you have a big chance of losing Venice. There's even islands in the South Pacific that they're thinking that they may have to evacuate, like Tuvalu, for example. I think they're talking about moving the entire island's population because they're becoming uninhabitable by rising sea levels.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The Maldives are threatened. The shake eels, I always pronounce that wrong.
Isn't it? I thought it was Seychelles.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why, like I said, I always mispronounce it.
That's all right. You just like milkshake, so you can't get that out of your mind.
Yeah. So, again, back in the U.S.,
yep.
And this actually just happened this week. I saw it because, I live kind of just up the road now, but Big Sur, a huge tourist destination, huge, absolutely beautiful area, beautiful park, but it's threatened with the drought that happened for the last 10 years. And then the new insurgence of water over this rainy winter season here in California.
Mm-hmm.
There was a massive landslide on Highway 1 this week,
right,
that covered half a mile of road, I believe, with 40 ton of rock. And, US 1 now is closed indefinitely. So we're actually seeing the effects firsthand of losing this, historic roadway that people aren't going to be able to see for a while.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought, that area was going to be damaged in that particular way, but it makes sense. And, it's a shame that it's so known for being able to see great aquatic mammals, and those guys are just disappearing.
Again, whether you believe, humans are a direct cause of the change in climate, it's still, in my eyes, we can all kind of try to do our little part. And if everybody does their part, I think the world will be a better place, regardless of whether or not we make a significant impact or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's for each and every one of us to want to try to give back to our planet for being so good to us. And we should take care of it. And we should not have this attitude that we could do anything without any results coming from it that are negative. We're all, whatever, energy in the world, you can't make or destroy energy. It just transfers. And if we put a lot of negative energy out there into the environment, then that negative energy is going to continue to spread. I know that sounds a little hokey to some of you listening out there, but it's true. And that's why we're talking to, Paul Snyder in the second segment here to talk about how you guys could actually go down the path of sustainability and make more money while doing it at the same time. Hotels could be more valuable by doing a sustainability program, and customers are really interested in folks that are doing right by the environment, especially those young customers out there, the millennial type folks. But I think all folks of all ages are being more cognizant and impressed by hotels trying to do the right thing to limit their rights on the environment, their effect on the environment, I should say. Jeff, any other places that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's so many sites that are threatened by, this change that we're experiencing. So let's just go through a real quick list.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you it's a lot of places are, not on the top of the list of people. They would think, oh, there's no way that's going to be affected.
Yep.
So, Great Wall, Taj Mahal, Dead Sea, Denali National Park, which is just absolutely beautiful. Again, we mentioned the Maldives, Madagascar,
Hey, Madagascar. What an amazing place Madagascar is. I'd love to go see that. There are so many unique species in Madagascar because they broke off, I think it was 65 million years from continental Africa. And, I highly recommend you guys tuning on the Netflix and watching Planet Earth 2, I think has got a Madagascar episode. But either way, just spectacular.
Yeah, it's amazing. Not a lot of people think that the pyramids are threatened, but they are.
Right.
The Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in Michigan, threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Africa's Congo Basin.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier Venice. Fortunately, I've been to Venice, but if you've seen on the news, severe floods have become more and more common in Venice. So, that's definitely, talk about a tourist town, that's definitely going to affect the tourist industry.
That's just really unfortunate. All right, so let's wrap this bad boy up. Thanks, Jeff, for all of that great information. And I'd love to hear from you guys. What places do you want to see in the world that you're afraid are going to go away? Send me a note to at Traveling Glenn on Twitter or Instagram, or find me on email, glenn@rouse.media. And be sure to stick around for the second half of the show today when we talked about how you guys can make more money by doing the right thing. Jeff, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And everybody have a happy Memorial Day weekend, and take a minute to think about those who made the ultimate sacrifice so you all can have a great summer and just be safe and live your life free. So thanks to you for listening. Thanks to our American soldiers. And thank you, Jeff, for being here. And we'll be right back after this ad.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No vacancy. The hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. You're listening to this right now. That's right. Right now. You're listening. But you're not the only one. Many others are too. So my question is, do you want to get noticed? Guess what? I can help you with that. Every single month, my content delivers more than 100,000 impressions. I know. I thought the same thing too. Now it's your time to get you or your product, service, or brand known by leveraging my network. I'll work with you to find creative solutions that are going to get your message to the ears and eyes that you need to attract. Just send me a note at glenn@rouse.media or find me on Twitter at Traveling Glenn. That's glenn@rouse.media, ROUSE.MEDIA. And while we're at it, Glenn has got 2 N's. Thanks for listening, and now back to more great content.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
So for those of you guys that listen to the show a lot, you know how much I hate the environment. Can, despise it, try everything I can to ruin it. But I'm with one guy today who, I don't know, seems to really be trying to save it. Mr. Paul Snyder, VP of Corporate Responsibility with IHG. So Paul, I'm just teasing. I do love taking care of our world and making sure things are good. And what I struck with most is by how people aren't really thinking that it's a good thing to do anymore. It just is the thing to do these days.
Oh, God, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think what we have seen happen in all parts of our business. I mean, you think about the hotel business, we've got basically 3 types of customers. We've got individual business travelers, individual leisure travelers, and then big corporate accounts. And big corporate accounts is 40% of our business. 5-6 years ago, they were asking us questions like, are you green?
Right.
Check a box, yes or no.
Yeah,
right.
And I think green at that time had to do with towels and how water was being dispensed.
If that. And they wouldn't even check. Now, those big corporate accounts are asking us, what's a carbon footprint of one of our hotel stays? And so it's becoming not only more table stakes and much more just the way you do business, but also it's becoming much more sophisticated. We're becoming more sophisticated as operators and branders. Customers are becoming more sophisticated. They get it. And not only that, but if you don't do it, it's not even that you're evil. You're just kind of dumb.
Right. Yeah, it is foolish because it's now, I think it's a price of entry for a lot of people, especially when you talk about younger consumers who grew up in more of a world where that is just the way that they existed. I mean, I'm a product of the 70s, so I grew up in a disposable society, so to speak. So I kind of had to learn everything, and I kind of had to teach my parents stuff as well. I remember coming home from college and demanding my family start recycling.
Right.
Now, it would be a shock to even think that people don't recycle.
Yeah, I mean, I even just look at my kids, and I've got 2 girls who are 9 and 12. And if you think about when we were kids, I mean, they actually had to have anti-littering campaigns back then. That's how far back you go.
I remember lots of crying Indians, the whole thing.
The whole thing. If one of my daughters saw someone litter now, much less not recycle, I mean, to them, again, it seems like they're looking at an alien. It's, again, not even looking at somebody who's evil or bad, but just like someone who just doesn't seem right somehow.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show how far we've come and where we're going.
Yeah, all right. Before we get really deep into this, and
we're pretty philosophical to start off here.
There's a lot of questions I have to ask you. I would love for you to orient the listeners exactly as to what your role is with IHG, and why is it so important to you?
Sure. So InterContinental Hotels Group is a collection of a number of brands. The ones that your listeners probably know or most familiar with are Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express, we have InterContinental, Crown Plaza, Hotel Indigo, a bunch of others. Our enterprise as a brand company spans the globe. We're in 100 countries. We've got over 5,100 hotels. But our business model is we are a franchisor. That means for most of our hotels, it is somebody else's real estate and it's somebody else's operation. It's our brand. So my job as Vice President of Corporate Responsibility and in charge of our sustainability platform is I have an empowerment job. I am here to help our properties reach their own sustainability ambitions. It's not a command and control environment. I have to influence, I have to cajole, I've got to try to get them, our properties, to have an ambition and then to succeed in that ambition. And so my role really is not even so much of pointing at people saying, do this, do this, do this. My role, first and foremost, is listening, saying, what do you want to do? And here's what you can do, and how we're going to help you get there. So
is it an issue of want to do coming from, hey, I want to help the environment, or is it an issue of this is a great way for me to save money, or I guess maybe both?
It's actually a combination of things, and I often think of it as sort of like a mixer. Like there's really 4 compelling arguments around sustainability in the hotel space. The first and foremost is cost savings. If your property is more efficient, guess what? Not only are you going to be more operationally profitable, but also by being more operationally profitable, the value of your asset goes up. So there's the pure just bottom line economic driver.
Before you go on, I do want to add to that. I think that's so right on, and I like to brag, I do. But about 5-10 years ago, I was saying you need to build the hotels from the ground up, thinking with more sustainability, because it's only going to help operations and it's going to help you sell for more money.
That's exactly right, because the hotels are an investment business.
Yeah.
So profit line is a big one. Honestly, the top line is becoming bigger. Again, I was talking about like big corporate accounts. Last year, almost 60% of our largest corporate accounts that use the global RFP process were asking sustainability questions. And so is it table stakes now for them? Maybe, maybe not, but they're asking the question for a reason. So there's the top line dynamic, there's the bottom line dynamic, and there are 2 others that come into play. Employees. All of our properties are in somewhat of a war for talent, to have the best employees, because ultimately it's employees, it's people that deliver the brands. Whenever anybody says to me and they say, I want to tell you about my favorite hotel stay, it's never about the marble in the bathroom or the flowers in the lobby. It is somebody at a hotel did something nice for me.
I just said that. I recorded a podcast earlier this morning. You guys could listen to that. It was with an analyst from thepointsguy.com, and we talked about exactly that same thing. It's not the chair that you remember, it's the person.
Right. So, and we want the best people in our hotels. And if you want the best people in your hotels, increasingly as you go down through the generations, Generation X and the Millennials and Generation Y and whatever, they want to work for places that have got an authentic brand of citizenship. So top line, bottom line, get any of the best employees and engage in them. And then finally, there are many of our owners that want to do the right thing in terms of being good curators of the environment and that type of thing. So when I first came into this role about 6 years ago, I would say there was some people were really motivated by the economic argument. But increasingly, that economic argument, just on the bottom line, the top line has become much more intense in terms of something for them to consider, and the employee dynamic, and quite frankly, just the pure sustainability dynamic. So different owners have different mixes of those 4, but all of them are somehow associated with an owner wanting to do something around sustainability in their hotel.
Yeah, and I'd love to look at it a little bit through the prism of where we are right now. We're at the InterContinental Barclay in New York City, which recently reopened after a near 2-year renovation, basically rebuilding the whole thing from the inside out. And that sounds to me like it gave you a lot of opportunity to prepare this structure for a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. And that starts first and foremost with the on-property leadership. And Hervé Houdray, who's the general manager of this hotel and was before renovation also, is flat out one of our sustainability leaders throughout the entire company. He was previously at the Willard, and then he was here. These are two old legacy assets that are two of our most sustainable properties in the entire system.
That's just shocking to me because you would think something that's so old can't be so sustainable and focused on the environment.
They absolutely can, and Hervé's proved it both at the Willard and then again here. And then when we went through the renovation here, you're absolutely right. It was a huge opportunity for us because we went right down to the studs and beyond to inject a lot more sustainability into the build design environment here, and we absolutely did that. So even before the renovation, it was still a highly sustainable hotel. After the renovation, it is an absolute test case for us to show off to anybody who wants to take a look at that.
And I could tell absolutely how passionate he was. I mean, the guy got excited about all the different LED lights, for example, and was like showing them off, and all of the little things that were done, all the little winks and nods for the environment that I might not notice as a customer, but really do make a big impact in aggregate.
Well, yeah, and that's one of our challenges, quite frankly, in the hotel space is so much about what is sustainability and sustainable operations of a hotel are inside the walls. And so we're glad that we got a chance to walk around with you to see in the back of house because that's where, quite frankly, whether it's myself or Hervé or Bill, our chief engineer here, can really geek out and say, hey, look at this pipe insulation or look at this enzyme digester that we have for the kitchen. There's so much that the customers just never see that contribute to a greater or a more improved carbon footprint, water footprint for a hotel. And these are things that we deal with and think about and wrestle with and innovate around on a daily basis.
Well, I think alone with the number of square footage that you're dealing with in this building, we're talking about lights that go from 60 or 75 watts down to 7.5 watts. That's a huge savings.
Yeah, it's a huge savings. But the savings don't even end there. I mean, that's one of the things that I really get excited about sustainability is that it's never just the first order effect or the second order effect or third order effect. So when you've got LEDs, first of all, you're saving tremendous amounts of money and energy. You're also saving on labor because LEDs last so long.
Right.
So we don't have to have so many engineers running around changing around light bulbs. And oh, by the way, LEDs are also programmable. And so you can make sure you can actually program their warmth or their color or all the rest of it so that you get the right atmosphere in the room so now your customer satisfaction scores go up. It just goes on and on. That's really the fun part about the job is that you think you're just doing there saving energy, but you're also making labor savings. You're also doing things in terms of a better customer experience. That's where it really sort of you start to smile on a daily basis.
Yeah, and one person who was smiling was the executive chef that we spoke to. We had a chance, as Paul was saying, to go back of house to get a tour, and I love that enzyme digester, which turns solid food into gray water, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's an amazing process and machine, and the technologies that are out there are really quite unbelievable. And so, that's not something we even thought of 5 or 10 years ago. And so to have that kind of a process, it's such a clean process, solves a waste issue for us, solves a water issue for us. It's one of those things like, why haven't we been doing this, forever? Well, we didn't have the technology, and quite frankly, even when the technology first rolled out, say 5 or 10 years ago, it wasn't affordable enough. All these things, whether it's enzymatic digesters or solar power or whatever you want, it's all becoming so ubiquitous throughout society, as we were talking about before, the maturity curve of just society around sustainability, that it's becoming more affordable, more executable, and quite frankly, there's less barrier to operationalize and actually engage with these things because people see it. They see people using this stuff.
Yeah, I hate to jump around because I want to talk about food and stuff more, but I love your passion for this, and you feel like every time you figure something out, there's more technology that comes that keeps that learning curve going and makes it so, hey, I just finished this project, but now I could probably restart it and add a lot more value.
Well, yeah, there are not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And people are very, very generous with offering their time to me and my team to show off the latest and greatest technologies. And quite frankly, I could honestly have like 3 or 4 people spend their full time just listening to people on new technologies. And so, we've got actually work to do in the estate that we've got to concentrate on. But it is amazing when you see out there just like the creativity that people have around certain things, legacy things that we've been trying to solve for a long time. I'll give you one example. It's very hard to submeter water. You'd have to actually drill into a water pipe, put in this flywheel, and put on this monitor, and it's a pain.
Right.
And there's an outfit that came up with a way to actually put a clip over a pipe, and it can actually measure the sonic footprint of the water going through the pipe, so that not only can it measure
the footprint. By the way, great name for a band if anyone's looking to put together.
I love that band. Yeah. Exactly. But it can not only tell you how much water is going through the pipe, but depending on actually the vibrations within the water, it can tell you whether it's going to a wash basin tap or whether it's going to a toilet or whether it's going to a shower. I mean, we've been thinking about how do we sub-meter water for the longest time, and here these folks with actually doing sound waves through water have figured it out. And so the amount of creativity and innovation that's out there is not only quite awesome and just fun to engage with, but it's becoming so widespread because you've got profit motive and you've got employee engagement and you've got wanting to be better stewards of the environment. All those things are wrapped up where you've got a lot of innovators and entrepreneurs that are running to the sustainability space because it makes sense and it's actually paying off.
Yeah, and going back to the food for a second, it's really interesting to see how you're not only focusing on what's in the four walls of the building, but about the products that you're bringing into the building. And this facility has 80% of all of its food localized and 100% of its proteins from localized sources, meaning in this case within 120 miles, I was told.
Yes.
That's fascinating. It sounds like a very time-consuming type of program to put together.
It is time consuming, but it's less so because, quite frankly, everybody's going local, and so all it is different kinds of muscle memory, and it pays so many benefits. Not only do you have better quality food, not only do you have a lower carbon footprint because you're not paying some of the transportation costs and other types of things, but you also have stories to tell about food. I mean, if you just get a steak from just some supplier, could be a very fine steak, but if we sit there and say this is a steak that came from upstate New York, or like the chef was telling us, this is actual maple syrup that comes from a farm right near his house in upstate New York. Those kind of stories and storytelling feed right into what our customers are telling us what they want, which is they want customized, curated experiences. They don't just want a hotel room. And so it's, again, one of those things where you are paying off on these efforts in multiple orders of effect. And quite frankly, also the way that you saw how he was telling the story about these things. It allows people to be creative in their jobs. It allows them to learn new things in their jobs. It engages them within their jobs. So while, yes, it is work to more locally source, the payoffs are so huge that it's a huge ROI just from an employee perspective in terms of what their day-to-day job feels like.
And then beyond that, I guess going to that customer perspective, it really engages them a lot more. I love that you were talking about the storytelling aspect of it. So it's not just that you guys are going to be getting Slovenian bees to live up on the roof. You're going to actually be able to tell the story of where the honey came from that you're utilizing within this building.
Well, that's right. And hotels are essentially local businesses, right? We're part of the communities we're in. And so if you see on the menu, right, cheddar cheese, but if you see Hudson Bay cheddar cheese, all of a sudden you're getting a sense of place right there that's contributing to the overall sense of place because you're visiting somewhere.
Right.
Whether you're here on business or leisure, whatever reason you're in New York, you're in a place. And when you've got signals throughout the building that are reinforcing that sense of place, it becomes much more of a richer tapestry and story for you. It's a better customer experience.
Yeah, all right. So we're at a big, giant hotel in the middle of New York City, but that's really not what I would say most of your job is all about. You're about what we said at the beginning, helping the smaller hotelier with assets that might be a Holiday Inn Express or a Hotel Indigo or maybe an Even Hotel, one of those types of assets. So tell me a little bit about some of the things that you work on with those types of folks.
So we have an online platform called IHG Green Engage. So it is a website that any of our hotels can have access to. And in fact, 2 years ago, we passed a brand standard that requires them to actually engage with the system. And it has a couple of component parts, but the two biggest are it allows properties to input their energy, waste, and water data.
Right.
And then it allows those properties to benchmark what their performance is against other similar properties. Because if you look at your home energy bill and it says that you used 130 kilowatt hours last month, is that good or bad? Well, you don't really know.
I have no clue.
But if you look at your neighbor's bill and his house is roughly the same size as yours and he only used 80 kilowatt hours, do you think you've got a problem? That benchmarking is critical.
Well, I definitely think that my kids are probably on the computer too much.
It could be that. Something's got to be addressed.
But totally, I see what your point is, because a lot of these things you're working within so-called vacuum. I don't really know what's going on. I don't know if this is good. I don't know if it's bad. For all I know, it could be the worst person on the planet when it comes to sustainability.
Right. Or the best.
Right? Or the best. Right.
So what Green Engage allows you to do is track your energy performance and your water performance, your recycling performance and waste performance, and then benchmark against other hotels, which tells you where your areas of opportunities are. So now flip the script to the other side, which Green Engage has got over 200 different green solutions. These are bespoke, customized solutions for hotels.
Right.
They help any owner, operator, step by step, what does it mean to do an LA LED retrofit? What does it mean to do triple glazed glass or anything? What does it mean to do aerators on your wash basins?
It could even mean planting native plant species.
Actually, that is one of our green solutions, exactly.
And I did not get that from the notes at all.
No, not at all. But what it does is, when you've got an estate of 5,100 hotels, they know their hotel better than I will ever know it, or my team can ever know it. And so what we try to do, again, with an empowerment frame, is say, you want to write your own sustainability story, IHG Green Engage is going to help you do that. And so that is how, whether it's this hotel, which is level 3, and IHG Green Engage, soon to be level 4.
Levels and what does that mean?
They're 4. So they're essentially ascending levels of achievement. So it's
not like Scientology where you just keep going up levels and you never get to the end.
That's getting to clear or whatever. No, not quite like that. But it allows you to write that sustainability story, whether you're a big hotel like this one or a Holiday Inn Express that's 80 rooms in Topeka, Kansas. And the platform is broad enough and nimble enough to actually allow that to happen. Because again, if I went out to the estate and said, I want everybody to do these 30 things, those 30 things are maybe right for some of the hotels, but not all the hotels.
Right.
Our job is to help hotels figure out what their ambition is, help them inform why they want to have maybe even bigger ambition than they've got, but then to help them get there. And that's what me and my team spend our days on, is getting everybody into an empowerment frame and saying, you've got a sustainability ambition, whether it's based on the profit motive, whether it's based on team members, whether it's based on stewardship, we're going to help you get there.
What about some general tips that owners can think about in order to make their sustainability efforts a little bit stronger? I think we already know about some of the basic stuff, and I think we've kind of gone beyond that.
Right. So I think some easy stuff is, first of all, energy audits always pay off. I mean, they sometimes seem expensive. They can be $5,000, $10,000, sometimes $20,000, but there is in-the-year savings when you do energy audits. You have experts that come in, and this is what their job is, to actually look at the building envelope and to look at how you're using lighting. And I mean, I can tell you that if you're a hotel owner, wait for a bright sunny day and then look around where you've got lights on that is actually in areas that are being illuminated by external sunlight. We always find it happening. And so energy audits will do that. It's a fantastic investment for any hotel owner operator to have someone come in and actually look at how energy is being used in the hotel. And I have never yet heard of a single hotel that has had an energy audit that hasn't found in the year savings. So that one's the easy one. That one is just just a layup. Other things that I think people can do have to do with unleashing the creativity of your own employees. Employees, again, as I was talking before, are increasingly engaged on this stuff. They're being sustainable in their own homes. They're recycling in their home. They're locally sourcing food. They're going to farmers markets and all the rest of it. We find our best ideas at corporate come from the field. At the hotel level, some of the best ideas come from employees. And so if you're an owner, find ways to ask your employees the question, how can we be more sustainable? Because I guarantee you somebody's going to put their hand up and say, I've got an idea. And so that's one that I always suggest to owners, is listen to your own employees, because they see the day-to-day operations.
And what I really love about sustainability programs is you're not just necessarily thinking about what's happening at the property. You're going all the way to the manufacturing process in a lot of cases, right? So it's not just anymore about having a particular type of sheet, but how that particular type of sheet is made and the methodology behind it, and even how it's perhaps shipped.
How it's shipped, how it's produced, how it's shipped, how it's sourced, but also what's its end of life use. We have to think about all of the consumables within our hotel environment from beginning to end, because you can't just sit there and have a sustainable sheet that is sustainably sourced. Let's say it's a bamboo sheet, right? So you're using a highly sustainable, essentially seed material to make a sheet. It then gets used in your hotel. You then have a highly efficient laundry system so that it's getting washed in a very energy efficient, sustainable way. But then it's time for end of life for that sheet. What are you doing about that? So, how does it get? First of all, reused is the first thing you want to do. You always want to reuse before you recycle, and certainly before it becomes refuse. And so we try to think about those things not just from the beginning to use, but then from use to end of life. So actually a great example of that is in our Holiday Inn Express estate. This last year, we put in a new coffee maker. What do you do with the old coffee makers? We don't want them going to landfill.
Right.
And we put together a program in conjunction with the brand team that allowed those coffee makers to be reused. They were actually donated to local Goodwills. And of course, Goodwill, which is a great charity partner of ours, they sell the clothes that are donated to them, or the coffee makers that are donated to them. Right. They take those monies to train people to enter the workforce and to have jobs and careers. It's just a great thing to be a part of. over 90% of our Holiday Inn Express estate essentially reuse their coffee makers into either a Goodwill donation or into at least recycling. 90%. I mean, that's
pretty awesome.
It's a stunning number.
Makes me wonder what the other 10% are thinking.
Sometimes you got to sit there and say 90% is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other 10% will just depress you why they didn't do it.
You know what? I just think it's the rule of life. It's the same thing with the franchise side of your business and all. You're going to have 10% of owners that are super crazy engaged and 10% that just don't really care about anything.
Well, that's right. And guess what? It's their money. It's their business.
Right.
And I'm here to inform them and to influence them and to support them and to empower them, but I can't control them. It's their business.
How long have you been part of IHG doing this?
I've been with IHG for 14 years, but I've been in this role for coming up in June.
Was that when the program began?
Green Engage predates me by a couple of years, though I was at the time part of operations, and so I was part of some work groups. I was sort of the operations representative to some of the sustainability teams at that time.
So how do you get involved in becoming a champion for sustainability?
Well, it actually started with a boss that I had a number of years ago. He was our chief operating officer at the time, and he elevated me into a new position. And I said, "Well, this is great, but I don't know that this is full time." He's like, "I know. I want you to spend the other 10 or 15% of your time finding something to do meaningful within the estate." And so I filled that time, honestly, asked myself, well, we're a for-profit business. How do we drive some profitability? But I also had a passion around sustainability. And so I did some of our first sustainability initiatives as part of our operations group. And that had to do with, in our company-managed hotels, those are actually the hotels that we actually do run on behalf of other owners, which is about, at the time, it was about 200 hotels here in the U.S., I should say in the Americas. I just did a CFL retrofit off of incandescents. It was a pure economic argument. I was going to ownership and I was saying, would you like to spend $600,000 for $1.2 million a year in savings? And they sort of look and go, yeah.
Right.
And I didn't even have to talk about this is the carbon we're going to be taking out of there and all the rest of it. So I really started to become very much engaged with the idea that we could do good on a number of fronts. We could do good for our owners, making their properties more profitable. We could be better stewards of the environment. But again, when I talk about those second and third order effects, and this is a story I've told a number of times before, but one of the things we found out as we were doing the retrofit was that over time, as engineers were getting their heads beaten in by the general managers about energy cost, which is the second highest line item at P&L after labor. Yeah. They would take an 80-watt bulb and put in a 60-watt bulb, and then they'd take a 60-watt bulb and put in a 40-watt bulb. We found that over time, actually, like water against a rock, it just wore down the luminescence in the rooms. So actually, our rooms were underlit. So we actually...
And that's a huge complaint from customers.
It is, and not only that, but it just room cleanliness and room attractiveness suffered. But we didn't see it because it was happening so slowly over time. So we actually found this organization called the International Association of Lighting Engineers. Look it up; they exist, and they actually have got specs for how much candle power, illuminative power there should be around a desk versus next to a bed versus next to a couch and all the rest of it. And so we took our brand teams through the rooms because they were a little worried about this retrofit. And I said, okay, here's the first room. This is the incandescent room. Then room number 2 is a room with CFLs at equivalent luminosity to the incandescents that were in there. And the brand team said, oh, yeah, this looks good. Okay, you're fine. It doesn't look like blue light. The light's warm enough. It looks just the same. I said, okay, hold on a second. Let's go to the third room where we actually uplit the room. But with CFLs, we were still saving 60 to 70% of energy. But the room now was lit properly. And I remember one brand manager said, it looks like you put $10,000 into the room.
Wow.
So now we have, and when we did this, our customer satisfaction scores and room cleanliness went up. So now you've got greater profitability for owners, better stewardship of the environment, better customer experience. When you ask why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, it's because those orders of effect, it just becomes so much fun just to watch these things play out and to see benefits that you hadn't even anticipated or driven for start to present themselves.
And I love all the business arguments behind it, besides just being the right thing to do. It really makes it a win-win for everybody.
I say it all the time. If all hotel owners, whether they're on our estate or anybody else's, only did the things that made them more profitable, we would be the greenest business on the face of the planet, full stop, before you ever lost a dime.
Right. That's pretty interesting. So what about customers? How have they changed since you came into the business? It used to be everyone focused on sustainability issues and saving money when the market was down. Mm-hmm. Now the hotel industry has been going gangbusters for the entire time you've been in this role, and I find that people are putting more and more emphasis on sustainability.
Well, it's because honestly, it's what our customers expect and demand. And again, they are being sustainable when they're in their homes.
Yep.
They don't want to be less sustainable when they're on the road. And so we found through our customer research that upwards of 70%, close to 80% of our customers consider themselves in varying degrees sustainable in their daily lives. Well, guess what? We've got to make sure that they remain sustainable in our hotels. Otherwise, they're going to be dissatisfied with their stay. And that is only just increased and intensified over time. The challenge for us is how do we let them know that they're actually staying in a sustainable hotel without it seeming like we're preaching, or how do we make sure that we tell them in a way that's authentic? Because if you sit there and talk about what a good guy you are, right, it sort of sounds weird on the ear. And that's why, quite frankly, we're really, really proud of...
That's why people don't respond to me.
That's
I gotta stop
exactly
talking
right.
about how awesome I am.
Right. What you have to do, Glenn, is get other people to talk about how awesome you are. So for us, those are like outfits like the Carbon Disclosure Project, or the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, where we've scored very high, in fact, industry-leading scores in those things, because, quite frankly, people aren't going to believe us. Certainly millennials are not going to believe us when we talk about ourselves. But when other people that are identified as real, authentic speakers and rigorous analyzers of what people are doing, then when they talk about you, that's a way for you to transmit to your customers that you're doing something really authentic, and they want to hear from you.
Are customers actually choosing hotels based on sustainability efforts now?
Some are. But I would not be able to tell you, and I probably don't believe that anybody is saying, I'm making a hotel choice purely on sustainability.
No, I think it's probably more of a factor than anything else.
And it could be a tiebreaker.
Interesting.
What we do know is that we've got in our Holiday Inn estate a Book a Greener Stay program. That's where you can actually stay at one of our properties, defer housekeeping because that saves on water and energy,
right,
and we'll reward you with some of our loyalty club points, our IHG Rewards Club points. And we find a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Mm-hmm. So whether they're choosing to stay at hotels around sustainability or not, I do believe that there are reputational influencers within the sustainability space that are helping customers make what they would consider informed choices. And certainly we're starting to see with some of these programs customers deciding to act more sustainably when they're on property.
Interesting. All right, before we wrap up, is there one area of sustainability that excites you more than others in terms of what's coming down the pike or something you're already doing?
Water. We've been really focused, everybody's really been focused on energy for so long, and quite frankly, waste also. Water has been one that has not received quite as much attention.
Well, I've been paying a lot of attention. If it's yellow, I let it mellow.
Yeah, there you go. So you've got to think about that, right? The fact is that in 2011, we had 7 billion people on the earth.
Yep.
By 2063, we're going to have 14 billion.
Wow.
And water is a constrained resource. And so how are we going to have not only the availability of water, but making sure that water is honestly clean and available, not overly regulated? You've got 260 river basins in this world that are actually controlled by 2 different governments. So it's becoming a political thing. Our headquarters are in Georgia, and Georgia's been in a decades-long fight with Tennessee and Florida over a river.
Right.
And so
because they're higher up, so they could take whatever they want and theoretically leave you with nothing.
Well, that's what Florida's sort of complaining about when it comes to Georgia, that we're using all the water before it gets to them. But, in our space, look at any hotel room. We have got a sink and a toilet and a shower or bath in every single one of our guest rooms. Water, we are big consumers of water. We've got to figure this out because water, quite frankly, there is no substitute for. If you're on electricity and all of a sudden electricity goes away, okay, go to solar power or go to coal fire, whatever, in varying degrees of sustainability. But there are different kinds of energy. There's only one water, which makes it a license to operate issue. And so we've got a partnership with the Water Footprint Network right now. We've mapped all of our hotels against water.
Water Footprint Network? What's that?
Water Footprint Network is an NGO, and they are absolutely the experts and world leaders when they think about water management issues, water stress issues. They've helped us map our entire state on water stress. Wow. And we're actually launching a pilot in China right now about how do you actually do something about the different types of water stress you see out there. So for me, what I'm most excited about right now is water, because it really is becoming such an emergent issue. And quite frankly, it's one that we've got to figure out. We've got to figure out how to be leaders when it comes to water, because as a hotel industry, we use so much of it.
I think we do in general in terms of society and in overall. We need to worry about that. My biggest concern is that we're going to have a war over water in my lifetime.
It is absolutely within the realm of possibility. And the fact is that when you have something that is a core necessity, it's something foundational to life, and there's a limited resource of it, it becomes a life or death issue. And so there will be fights over water. Let's hope that we're smart enough in terms of our water management, water stewardship, that we avoid something like a war. But we're not going to avoid fights about it. There will be fights about water, whether at the local level or even between countries.
Right. Yeah, excellent. Any final thoughts?
No, just have enjoyed having you here at the Barclay here today. We're proud of this hotel. We're proud of not only the renovation, we're proud of Hervé and his team, Bill in engineering, Will in the kitchen. This is a hotel that we really point to and say, if you don't think that you can't operate a hotel that is over 80 years old in a really sustainable way, then you haven't looked at the Barclay.
And I suggest everyone come look at the Barclay, and we're up here in the all new penthouse suite, which is not yet open to the public. Built from nothing. There was no floor here. You guys actually had to build this out. Pretty awesome. I really don't want to have to leave this room. I think that TV is over 100.
Well, if you've got your American Express card, we're more than happy to rent the room to you for the night, Glenn.
Can I borrow your card real quick? I want to thank Paul Snyder for being here with me. Give me a website or something that people could find you.
Certainly. I check our responsible business report that actually goes live tomorrow, and we're taping this on March the 1st.
So it'll already be up there.
Yeah, and you can get that at ihgplc.com. There you can see all the things we're doing, not only in sustainability, but also in our communities with our IHG Academy program or our IHG Foundation or things that we're doing around human rights. All that stuff can be found in our responsible business report.
Great. And I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Remember, find me at Traveling with Glenn on Twitter and Instagram. And come on, give me some 5-star ratings, love. You know I need that. My ego is at stake here right now. I want to thank you again for listening, and we will be back next week. That is, unless I decide to quit this game and become a champion for the future of water. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.